Hey there, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're probably into cryptids and monsters. Well, if you have a creative spark, you can always join us in our first ever Supernatural Selection zine project. For 2024, we are doing cryptid encounters, where you can draw or write a encounter with a cryptid of your choice, and we'll put it in the zine. The current submission window is from early January to late June. If you're interested in finding out more, you can always go to supernaturalselectionpod.com/zines. That is ZINES. Now back to the show.
I'm horny.
Are you horny, Mike the sex goat?
I'm horny for frogs.
Oh, God. Well, that makes sense, seeing as the topic tonight. Hello, and welcome to Supernatural Selection. I'm your host, Kevin Heyman. With me this week are Mike the horny skeptic. Mike, how you doing?
I'm a horny toad.
Oh, man, I can't believe we didn't have that joke anywhere in here. And we've got Mr. David Davis. David, how are you doing tonight?
I'm so fucking tired of frogs now.
Oh,
Why? Yeah. They're cute and green and...
No,
I
was just
easy being green.
Well, not all of them are green. That's me being a mammalist.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. So, before we get started, housekeeping, the zine. David, tell them about the zine real quick.
So our 2024 zine project is Cryptid Encounters. We're taking art and writing submissions depicting cryptids. Submission window right now is January through June, so if you're listening to this episode right now, you should start sending stuff in.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
as far as...
I was just going to say, and then we'll have information about the Kickstarter for it when that becomes a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the zine will be made free, but we are going to do a little crowdfunding thing as well. But if you want to know more about the project, you can go to supernatpod.rocks/zines. And then I'm going to throw a link to the Tumblr account on there. Oh, no, actually, if you click on blog, it will take you to our Tumblr account.
Yes.
Where I'll be posting updates.
And I'll try to get back on that as well. Me bad.
Yeah, no worries. I've just been reblogging stuff on air. It's fun.
I've been... that's what I was doing. I was going through finding cryptid stuff and reposting it. So,
yeah.
Tonight's subject, me and Mike have a lot in common with this subject this week, in that we're both infested with mucus.
And we get around everywhere by hopping lately.
Yes. Well, me and Mike are sick again, but we're talking about frogs. David, tell us about frogs.
Okay. So, if you've followed the show, you've noticed that we often have frog imagery in our graphics, such as episode covers and the logo.
Yep.
No, this isn't a 4chan Pepe the Frog thing, but rather like an inherent fascination with frogs as derived from the simultaneously cool and lame cryptid, the Loveland Frog, who we will be discussing.
Yes.
There isn't a lot to him, though, but it did inspire me to ask just like what was up with all the fucking frogs and folklore and magic, so that's what this episode is.
So strap your helmets on, boys. It's folklore.
Mm-hmm. In an effort not to get bogged down in pulling from double-digit sources, I have probably about 20 sources that I read on all this.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, no, I think I've got like 7 or 8 linked that I use directly, but there's always more.
Yeah.
I wanted to use this episode as more of like a broad survey of the strange cultural and mythical connection between frogs and humans. As far as my sources, they'll be mentioned verbally, but I have them all linked within the show document as well. So you can always go to our website, click on the notes for the episode, and get all of those sources.
Yep. And quick question, are Alex Jones jokes off limits?
Not at all. If you can find a way to segue them in.
Sure. Awesome. Great.
Okay. So, frogs are weird. I mean, like, it's a weird animal.
It is. It's a weird little dude.
You know, they're cool, a little unsettling, a little alien, and a little familiar. Frogs and toads account for the vast majority of amphibians on Earth and are among the most diverse of the vertebrate orders.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Huh. Like, I think top 5 in diversity.
Okay.
Yes, there are over 7,500 species of frogs on almost every continent on Earth.
We need to point out that Mike, we've all contributed to this episode. David has done the bulk of it. I'm going to be talking about the cryptid, and Mike is going to be telling us frog facts as we go forward.
Yep.
So,
yeah, of course, the only place without frogs is Antarctica, because an Antarctic frog would be very terrifying.
And the rent's too high.
And we keep finding more frogs.
Yeah, and aren't they like a key thing they watch for to see what's wrong with the environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get into all of this in the episode.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll let you get into that in the episode.
No worries. I'm just glad we're all excited about frog facts.
Yeah, we kind of are.
Now, frogs are some of the most important animals to larger human culture. You know, say what you will about domesticated animals like, you know, dogs, cats, cows, goats, that sort of thing. Frogs have always served as like both food and cultural and religious focus for as long as humanity has existed. Frogs have also provided medicine in a number of ways.
That's true.
Frogs are also considered to be environmental bellwethers indicating environmental changes.
Mike, you had something?
Well, I was going to say, if you lick some frogs, you get really medicated.
Yes, you do.
Yep, we'll be getting into that too.
Yep, and so when you say as food, you're talking about besides the French, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
Like frogs are edible. They're actually quite delicious.
No, I've eaten frog's legs. It's fine. It's like water chicken.
Well, yeah, like if you're a Cro-Magnon, you're not going to like turn down like a frog. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, I'd eat a crunchy frog because if we took the bones out, it wouldn't be crunchy.
Kevin, did you know that calling a Frenchman a frog is a high compliment?
You're full of crap. Is that a fake one or a real one?
Fake? No, I didn't. I don't have any fake facts here. I did tens of minutes of research, most of which while sitting on the toilet on my phone.
Okay, all right, good, perfect.
We need like a little fake frog facts. Oh, that's hard to say.
Yeah, it is.
So, all of this is to say that humans have had a fascination with frogs that's radically altered our perception of the world around us and resulted in an animal that is interpreted in a myriad of ways. You know, from occult and magical benefactors to harbingers of death and doom.
The death frog.
Mm-hmm. Many cultures, while not entirely framing it as evolution proper, saw what was kind of an evolutionary link between the frog and the human being.
That's kind of fucked. That's kind of fucked.
Well, I mean, we'll get into it in a little bit, but like, think about like what's the animal that you usually dissect in a science class?
Oh yeah, besides fetal pigs, frogs.
Oh yeah, the first one's a frog.
Yeah,
we
did the frog.
And there's a reason for that, but
right.
From the website On Elephants and Bacteria, which is a great name.
Yes.
Quote, a lack of tail, the absence of fur, visible fingers, it is not difficult to understand why many human cultures have myths in which frogs and humans are intertwined. Neolithic rock art, ranging from North America to Europe and Asia, already shows frogmen, silhouettes which may represent people, frogs, or both.
You know, honestly, when you put it like that about the similarities in, morphology, it makes more sense than I thought it would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just something, like the body plans are pretty similar in a lot of ways.
Also, it's great when you find a frog that looks like it's smiling.
Aw.
Speaking of frogs, David, do you talk about the glass frog in your doc?
I did not mention the glass frog.
Well, glass frogs make their skin transparent by hiding red blood cells in their livers.
Fuck.
Yeah,
That's
they
awesome.
suck all their red blood cells out of their skin to make themselves clear and harder to detect.
That's fucking fascinating, actually. Jeez.
Yeah, frogs are weird, dude. It's great.
Yeah. Weird-ass little bastards.
So, specifically, the article has a section about representations of frogs as representatives of proto-humanity and ancient cultures. And I'd like to look at a couple of those examples.
Okay.
Now, also, the website I'll be quoting here is the collaborative work of field biologist and ecologist Mark Riera and evolutionary biologist Dr. Alejandro Izquierdo Lopez.
Nice.
They both appear to be affiliated with the University of Barcelona, so I do need to correct some transcription errors here and there. That being said, the article is excellent. I recommend everyone read it, as I'm only going to be covering a couple of examples from it. So, first we have the Taino people. Do you guys recognize the name?
Ahsoka Tano?
No. That's
No.
silly.
No, not at all.
Does that strike the bell at all, or ring the bell?
A little bit. Like, I've heard the name.
Okay.
All I can
So-
think of is like the Japanese like video game company, but that's Taito.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nope.
it's different.
So the Taino were the people that Columbus encountered in what we would come to call Hispaniola, or what he would come to call Hispaniola, which we now know as Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
Oh, right. The ones he completely fucking obliterated. Sorry. Forgot about that. All right.
Well, dude, that's why we don't know about them, because they were wiped out by douchebag.
Spaniards and
Spaniards.
rats.
Oh, I have information from
Smallpox
a
blankets.
museum of the Taino people in the Haiti, so we're
Oh.
good. They're
Okay.
still around. Like they didn't
Oh,
Well, yeah.
okay, okay.
I mean,
but yeah, we
obliterated
destroyed
in
the
the sense.
This
Yeah,
doesn't mean we
like-
destroyed all. They,
culturally.
Yeah.
We didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're gonna get into like some terminology that's Taino Creole language and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and quote my source here. Quote: "The Taino of the Dominican Republic explained the similarity between the word teat and frog in Taino Creole through a transformational myth. When people left the cave of creation, men and women were separated, and the children were left with the men. Those children started to cry, calling for the teat in a loud toa, toa. As they chanted toa, the children transformed into frogs, which were later known as tona."
Now, as a quick aside to this, I really find this interesting because it reminds me of the origin stories of the Choctaws here in the U.S. They say that they emerged from the Nanawaya Mound near Philadelphia, Mississippi, and that's where all mankind came from. And I just find it interesting when two groups this separate have like similar underground origin stories, like the cave and the mound, you know?
Yeah, we could easily like fill a ton of time just talking about like different origin stories and creation myths,
Oh, yeah.
because they're fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Or
Yeah.
maybe vaults.
Don't get started, man. That is Hancock territory. Let's move on from that. Jeez.
So, I also have a symbol of the toa embedded into the dock. So what does it look like to you, gentlemen?
It kind of looks like a frog or a lizard or a really kind of neat tattoo.
It looks like a frog if it were, doing runway modeling.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
like-
could see
A
that.
frog needs a sandwich.
Like the frog's also kind of hanging dong there.
Well,
He do have a dick.
frogs
Yeah.
have kind of a pointy butt, so I can see that.
They do, yes. It could also kind of hint at like the transition between tadpole to frog.
Ah,
as well.
yes.
But
point.
yeah, like it's a very striking image.
Yeah,
I think.
like you could guess frog from that probably.
Yeah.
It has the frog elements.
Yes,
I mean, if you made that body more of a triangle, it'd be way more froggy. But
sure.
Yeah. Now, frog symbols appear in a lot of Taino artifacts. For example, the Taino Museum in Haiti includes a stone frog in their collection. There's a link to the frog the artifact in the dock. Very interesting.
Oh, wow, that's a really good frog, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It also kind of helps, because we're going to talk about, like, representations of frogs in, like, primitive art, and frogs are pretty easy to, like, shape.
It's the oval with legs, really.
Yeah, so there's kind of, like, because, early, I don't want to, like, shit on early craftspeople, but, like, it took a while for them to start, like, working in details into things, but, like, frogs are kind of inherently lumpy.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to, like, besmirch our ancestors, but...
Yeah, you find a rock shaped like a frog, you're like, I bet I can make that fucker look more like a frog.
Mm-hmm.
So you're mentioning a lot of stuff about, frogs in history, but you're not mentioning that the first mention of frogs in historical texts was in 1875 in Hoboken, New Jersey.
God damn it.
I know that's a lie, you motherfucker.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
That is pretty good. So we've immediately kind of established this link between frogs and motherhood. And it's not just seen in the story of the Taino, but we're going to get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
Now, in the myth of the Iroquois in the Americas, you have the story of the Sky People and the Sky Woman who was to give birth to twins. Her husband, enraged, ended up uprooting a tree, creating a hole in which her husband eventually pushed her, which that seems like an overreaction.
Man, they didn't half-ass anything in the olden times.
So she fell to the earth towards the sea. Animals, seeing her plight, sought to create a place for her to land, and the hero here was a toad who spilled mud from the bottom of the sea onto the back of a turtle, creating what we would call North America.
Okay, well, all right.
Creation myths are rad, dude.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It just makes me think of Discworld.
Mm-hmm. So I'm summarizing a fascinating creation myth here, but I want to emphasize the toad as part of what allows humanity to occur. Making frogs and toads our weird uncles or something. Like the frog here isn't necessarily like part human, but it's, you wouldn't have humans because those twins end up becoming the Iroquois people.
Right.
So here's another example from Elephants and Bacteria. Now, it involves the Taiwanese Saciat people.
Okay.
Now, in this tale, a fisherman scooped up a frog in a net and, not wanting it, threw it away. The frog, however, turned into a child and would grow up to be the founder of a significant Saciat dynasty, the Taputa Barasu.
So, don't throw frogs. You'll make emperors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not necessarily like a dynasty. Like I don't mean in the sense of like a ruling dynasty.
Probably just like a long running family, like Kevin, like the show dynasty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
At least I don't know if the Taputa Barasu were rulers. They might have been. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Still, don't throw frogs.
Don't cast frogs at aspersions.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of other stories about frogs being related to humanity in some way. I found the undercurrent link between frogs and humans here, especially the idea of frogs being proto-human, to be particularly interesting. And a lot of that lies with how visible the changes of a frog are and how they contradict our own bodily changes and growth.
Right. That makes sense.
So, you want to hear some other way frogs are similar to people?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them give live birth. They don't have tadpoles.
I've heard that.
In the Bronx Zoo is one of the only places in the world where you can see one of those types of frogs. The Chianti spray toad is extinct in the wild.
I don't know
to live young.
I can't Google that right now to verify if it's
They're
true.
born as frogs and not tadpoles.
Yeah, no, that's real.
Oh, wow. See, I didn't even know that. That's fascinating.
Wildlife Conservation Society is working in Tanzania, the frog's native country, to reintroduce the species back into the wild.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, the ultimate power in the humble frog is their remarkable life cycle, which is rife with symbolic and metaphorical potential. The critical stages of transformation from tadpole to adult frog can vary widely from one another, and they can be shocking to see, especially when we compare it to what we perceive culturally as growth from childhood to adulthood. The frog life cycle is more primal than our own, and as we see it, it's kind of unnerving.
You know, it reminds me of Muppet Babies when Robin showed up and he was a tadpole, and it just really unnerved me that a Muppet followed the biological lines of a frog. And also, where the hell were the baby's parents? Where did they come from? Did Nanny buy them in a lot? What the fuck?
I don't think they ever explained who the parent. Have we ever seen Kermit's parents?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
This is also why we see frogs associated with life and rebirth in various cultures, because again, that central image of the frog's transformation from tadpole to frog, strong metaphorical potential there.
Yeah.
But, let's look at frog myths more broadly and see what's out there.
All right.
Do frogs need to drink water? Not quite. Frogs don't guzzle down water like we do, but of course, being amphibians, they do rely on good old H2O to survive. So how exactly do frogs get the water they need? Easy, they absorb it. Frogs have unique permeable skin that water can simply travel through, giving them all the nutrients and minerals they need, while helping them to stay nice and damp, just how they like it.
I believe that because you didn't say through the anus.
Are we just going to have to guess each one, and then Mike's going to tell us whether it's true or false?
That's my plan.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to say that is true.
Do you want me to tell you if it is or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
On this one for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, that's true. It's true as hell. I'm not that clever.
No,
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's good going forward. So.
Yeah. Like I said, like I said, I figured that was true because, again, it didn't involve the butt. So.
All right. So, frogs have been long connected to various cultures in the areas of folklore and folk magic.
Of course they have.
The first recorded contact between humans and frogs, which is odd to think about, it's a weird thing to quantify, the first recorded contact between a human and a frog, likely occurred between the Paleolithic and Magdalenian cultures between 17,000 and 12,000 BCE.
So it wasn't in Hoboken?
No, it was not in New Jersey.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
So this is noted by the presence of frogs or other amphibians in cave art, such as the famous site at Lascaux, France.
Right. That's a famous cave with all the art in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't remember if it's the pigeon poop one either.
Oh, God, I hope
it might be the pigeon poop one from
Cosmic Death Fungus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to mention this because early humans long knew about frogs, but it is also fascinating that they are among some of the earliest symbols recorded worldwide.
Okay. Well, there's some of the weirdest looking fuckers you're going to find in nature that you don't have to, go out of your way to see, Mm-hmm. You can see a frog pretty easy. And, yeah, I mean, you're going to be like, what the fuck is that tiny dude?
Mm-hmm.
So the Hoboken one I was unsure about, but it is funny that, there's all this, but the Bible never mentioned frogs at all, which led Pope Pius IV to declare them beasts of Satan in 1545.
I buy that, actually.
Okay, so that's going to make it really awkward when I talk about the plague of frogs in Exodus.
Oh, shit.
Right.
Shit, Mike, you got me with your you put numbers in it and you fooled me. I didn't know numbers could lie.
I thought you would see right through that.
Man, I got all excited that you had like a real one about the man. Fuck.
So, frog imagery is all over numerous African cultures and rock art, such as the case of the San people, who depicted what have been interpreted as frog-like figures as part of their religious rituals. This is another example of the idea that frogs and humans have an ancestral connection. Now, I should note here that the article I read about the San rock art, titled Frogs Are People, Dorothea Bleak and the Genealogy of Ideas in Rock Art Research, was a very well-written critique by David Weidelson of an existing interpretation that debates the conclusions of other scholars on the symbols, suggesting that the interpretation comes from trying to unify frogs to a sequence of images due to an already apparent significance of frogs in San culture.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, like it's just, you see these clearly frog-like symbols. Frogs were important, so these things have to be frogs.
Right. No, I got you.
So I've included one of the images so we can see why the frog association was made so readily. And if you'll take a look at it.
Yes, and I'll hold my thoughts until such time as I will give my thoughts.
So I bring up the situation with the interpretation of San art for a reason. First, when working from the remains of ancient cultures, we are often limited by what material evidence remains. So there is a tendency to connect oral and myth traditions with a limited pool of physical evidence.
Okay, so this image you've shared, this is either an evolutionary chart showing the development of frog to man, or someone is being judged for transgressing frog law. This is a jury.
I want to get this on a t-shirt and just go frog mode. I think that'd be a great t-shirt.
That would be.
It's kind of an Animorphs cover.
Yeah. Oh, God. It is. Fuck. It's a tribal Animorphs cover. Great.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Well, another way frogs are close to people is they have a wide range of emotions, just like us. Their slimy bodies and bulging eyes and distinctive coloring, frogs appear as about as different from people as possible to be. But despite these similarities, it's important to remember that they are sentient beings capable of complex range of emotions, including happiness, anxiety, excitement, and stress.
You're full of shit, Mike.
No, I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna buy that one.
Frogs have been known to display altruistic behavior. That's when a creature puts its needs of others, another above its own. And that is true. That's a frog fact I came across.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay. It just sounded like, it was wordy, but I was like, oh, Mike's making this shit up.
Well, and here's the thing. My clue was the word stress, because stressing frogs out is going to be a very important part of this going forward.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to get dark.
Oh, boy. When does it not get dark when animals are involved on this fucking show?
Right? I rack up quite the body count in this one, I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Now, I had mentioned earlier, like, early craftsmanship and that sort of thing. So we may often see lumpy, primitive statues as, like, frog-like, though that may have just been the limits of craftsmanship of the period. The same applies to the apparent sequential image that can be interpreted as a human transforming into a frog.
Okay.
Given what is known about San culture and their interpretations of frogs, linking that imagery to frogs makes an inherent sense, but that may only be partially accurate as well.
Right. They're assuming.
Mm-hmm. So I want to bring that up because many of these interpretations about frog goddesses and myths, while supported in scholarship, may just be the phenomena of making associations like this. That said, the widespread presence of frog imagery in folklore is incredible across different cultures, and we're going to be getting into that now.
Well, like Mike said, that's because there's so goddamn many types of them.
Mm-hmm. Now, the problem with looking at frogs from culture to culture is that their presence is interpreted radically differently. For example, look at the Greeks and the Romans. For the Greeks, the frogs could represent harmony, but for the Romans, there is an association with licentiousness.
Ah, yes, come, my love, let us fuck like frogs. I'm going to use that this weekend.
Well, in a little known twist of events, Alex Jones, in fact, made frogs gay.
Okay, that's a bullshit fact, but I believe that bullshit fact.
Now, wasn't it the chemicals that made the frogs gay?
Yeah, but I think Alex Jones did it.
Alex
real.
Jones was pouring the chemicals. It was
Okay. Oh, it, like some sort of like false flag, you would say.
exactly.
It was a false flag operation. The frogs were. I had to do it for listeners.
Now, for now, I just want to focus on the most common associations of frogs in myths and culture, and those are reproduction, the feminine, and harvest.
And all three of those kind of make sense.
Of course, ancient Egypt had its own frog lore, which seemed to connect frogs to fertility.
Right.
Now, I'm going to turn to ancientorigins.net a lot, because they had like 3 different articles that were adjacent to what I was talking about.
Right. And I just want to say that ancientorigins.net, I keep expecting it to be about like ancient aliens, so I'm really glad it's not.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty decent website.
Oh, good.
So, quote, in 3000 BCE, in early dynastic Egypt, millions of frogs were born after the annual flooding of the Nile, and it was held as a symbol of life and fertility. Consequently, in Egyptian mythology, a frog goddess, Heket, represented fertility and was depicted as a woman with a frog's head.
Now, I'm going to admit, I have not seen any Rule 34 of her on DeviantArt yet, and I've seen a lot of Egyptian stuff on DeviantArt that is questionable. I haven't seen Frog Mommy yet.
I would say you're probably more likely to see Kek than Heket, just because of 4chan.
Yeah, fuckers.
Yeah. So the association here is that the frog croaking after a particularly wet season on the Nile meant a boon in food production. You know, the more people who can eat their fill, the higher the odds of having families. You're more likely to have sex when you're not starving to death.
That's pretty true.
As for Heket, ancientorigins.net had a separate write-up for the figure. In most interpretations of the figure, Heket was a partner to Khnum, who represented...
I was just going to say, I've been waiting to see how you say that.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, Khnum.
Okay, good enough.
Who represented creation and the Nile River. Now, Heket would represent childbirth, but also appear in funerary contexts. She's tied to many significant figures in Egyptian mythology as well, such as having assisted in delivering Horus, the son of Osiris and Isis.
It sort of makes sense, though, that she's kind of like a bookend goddess.
She was such a significant figure that she had a prevalent cult attached with fertility. Archaeological records in the ancient city of Kos include signs of a temple devoted to her built in the Ptolemaic period.
Golden mantella frogs live in large groups with twice as many males as females. That makes for quite the mating season.
Okay.
I'm going to say that's true.
Yeah.
They look very similar to poison dart frogs in South America, and no less toxic. And yes, that's true.
Yeah, I figured.
There we go. Hey, I'm doing pretty good so far.
Yeah. You're doing better than I am. I'm a sucker.
All right, so I want to read an excerpt from an excellent essay by Yi Shuzan titled From Frog to Nua and Back Again, The Religious Roots of Creation Myths. Now, this article focuses on the link between prehistoric art in China involving frog symbols and their connections to what we interpret to be frog goddesses associated with creation mythology.
Okay.
Quote, the frog has a number of symbolic meanings, among which the most important one pertains to water, the major factor of the natural environment in which it lives. In ancient China, people would pray for rain by imitating frogs. The image of the frog appeared on bronze drums, whose sound usually reminded people of the thunder and lightning, so people believed that frogs croaked for rain. Sometimes the frog is mixed up with the toad since both are associated with water and yin. It is believed that the quail, also known as a firebird, yang, would transform into an aquatic frog, yin, in the spring equinox, and then become a quail again in the light of the basic regular movements of nature.
All right. I'm just picturing Chinese people sitting in fields croaking at the sky, and it makes me get going. It kind of makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
The national bird of Lithuania is a frog.
What the fuck? What the fuck is that?
I'm going to say that one's false.
Yeah, same.
Hey, I didn't say they'd all be bangers.
Okay, fair. Oh my god. No bird's a frog. How is that the funniest one so far?
I'm sorry.
Well, frogs are used as official currency in 12 nations.
Yeah, it's a no. It's a no for me, dog.
Yeah, that's great, though. I like it.
Now, this article is comprehensive and points out many examples of frog goddesses across the region, spilling into Tibet and India. It also lays out a solid association for why frog goddesses may have been so prominent in cultures all over the world. So let's return to Heket in Egypt and her association with the Nile River.
Okay.
The ubiquity of frogs worldwide and their constant lifestyles around bodies of water make them natural markers for wet and dry seasons, which are essential to agriculture. That being said, agriculture is often tied to the feminine, as agriculture is a literal issue of life or death for many of these early cultures.
Yeah, also it's like you can see the growing season being associated with the growing of a new life. Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
Now, Shuzan's article further illustrates the connection between fertility and menstruation and the cycle of seasons. This results in a fascination and mystique with women, which factored into the development of goddess culture. What we arrive at, then, is a collision of symbols that often results in cosmic frog women across all manner of Eurasian civilizations. Around the world, even.
That is a hell of a band name, the Cosmic Frog Women.
That sounds dope as hell.
I could have seen them at Lilith Fair.
Now, in the title of that article, I had mentioned Nua. Nua is a great example of this frog goddess in Chinese folklore. Let me read another brief excerpt from Shuzan's article. Quote, in Chinese oral myths, the frog-toad character is correlated with Nua, chief goddess of creation. There are widespread frog myths on upper reaches of the Yellow River on the motif of creation, and some are variants of Nua myths or associated with the goddess Nua. The most typical variant goes thus. Legend has it that on the one day in the third year of their marriage, Nua said to her husband Fuxi, a flood is coming, for the frog is foaming. Before long, she gave birth to a meatball in the water, which was given the name Waren, meaning frogman. In this story, the word frog shares an isomorphic meaning with Wa, goddess Nua, which the former not only being a metaphor of the latter, but also of her genitals. The peasants of the Gansu province have a proverb, quote, when the frog foams, a storm is about to come, which includes both the frog's natural behavior and its mythical power.
The biggest frog in the world can weigh nearly 7 pounds, the size of a newborn baby.
I believe it. I've seen
talk about a meatball.
Yeah. Speaking of...
The Goliath frogs, found in small ranges in the rainforests of Western Africa, are truly massive. They can grow lengths up to 2.5 feet with their legs extended.
Wow.
So I'm going to say the 7-pound frog is a no, but the 2-foot extended frog is a yes.
No, I've seen some fat boys.
That's all one fact.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that is the fact.
Yeah,
it's the Goliath frog.
It's true. I've seen the Goliaths.
Okay, but, hey, that's fair.
I just want to draw attention back to the divine meatball. And my question is, was it a spicy?
Oh, and it's a very dense sort of mythology to kind of go through there. But, like, the correlation between the frog foams and menstruation, it all
No, I get it.
clicks. Yeah, it makes sense, and it's just one of the things I love about myths like that. Like how do you explain things, and it ends up being this really bizarre, magical idea.
Yeah, somebody thought, yeah, sure, she shot a meatball out of her cooch. Why not?
Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying, it's what they said.
So, let's move on to another source here.
Yes, please.
Carolyn Thorpe's essay, Frog People of Drakensberg, looks at the presence of frogs in African Bushman mythology. The article references studies of art across several ritual sites that tie the frog as a symbol to three important concepts: rain, girls' puberty, and hunting. Again, the relationship between reproduction, seasons, and agriculture and survival.
Well, again, frogs fuck.
Mm-hmm. I think some of them can lay up to like thousands of eggs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because a frog is a terrible thing to waste.
God damn it. That's a frog fact.
One article I found fascinating but had no time to get into was a 1940 ethnographic survey of frog mythology written by Alexander H. Krapp. Go ahead and get your giggles out now.
What's so funny about that name? I don't get it.
Alexander H. Krapp. That just sounds great.
It's Crappe. Come on.
Yeah, Crappe. Like a frappe?
It's crap.
So the title of this article was The Lunar Frog, which covers many examples of frog symbols associated with frog seasons and lunar cycles.
Okay.
Now, in the Smoky Mountain region of Appalachia, we have a spring peeper who croaks and becomes particularly prevalent in rainy spring periods, often interpreted as a sign of seasonal change like many other frogs worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of frogs down here during the rainy season, which is normally from January to December until now because of fucking climate change.
Now, I couldn't get, like, super into it, but there's, like, a whole bunch of Appalachian, like, lore surrounding frogs and, like, for folk wisdom and medicine and that sort of thing.
Oh, I'm sure. We'll have to cover
Lots
Appalachia.
of frog sayings.
Yeah.
This episode is us just kind of running through a museum of frog kind and, like, literally running through and glancing at stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah. We're being Johnny Topic Seed right now, just
like
chucking ideas.
Like another frog fact, frogs do not taste like chicken. Chicken, in fact, tastes like frogs.
I am going to say that is a yes.
Because that one has no real yes or no.
Yeah.
Well, no, my reasoning is that, like, amphibians existed before reptiles.
Oh, it's a chicken and egg.
Oh,
right. But then reptiles became birds, right?
I guess it depends on which one was eaten first.
True.
Were frogs eaten first or chickens eaten first? I guess frogs, but, you know.
You can catch frogs easier, I guess. I don't know. Sure as hell wasn't gator, which also tastes like chicken.
Now, frogs are also regarded as important animals in Japan because, again, they are associated with flooding. Frogs in rice paddies were a sign of good fortune during wet seasons, and the amount of eggs frogs produce makes them a symbol of fertility.
Makes sense.
All of this can factor into association of frogs with wealth in the form of talismans and statues. Linguistically, the sound associated with frogs, keru, representing their croaks. Oh, yeah. Keru. Also sounds like the word keru, which represents the concept of returning.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then, there's all sorts of other stuff in the Asian sphere that, like, we haven't even gotten into. Like, for example, if you go to a Chinese food restaurant, there's always, like, one of those toad statues, right?
Is there?
Usually, like, you'll see a Buddha, but usually there will also be a toad, or it could be Japanese. I'm not sure. But if I were to show you a picture of one of those toad statues, you would recognize it instantly. There's a whole thing there, and it relates to that idea of the frog representing wealth.
So another reason why frogs can be symbols of returning is that certain species of frogs can freeze nearly solid in the winter and emerge unscathed in the spring.
No, I completely believe that.
Wood frogs evolved to freeze up to 65% of their body every winter. The amphibians produce urea and glycogen to make a kind of antifreeze that fills and protects their cells and vital organs, while the rest of the body freezes solid.
Man, frogs are awesome.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I love that.
So
All
you
right.
can see how that would,
So
people would see, full-grown frogs coming out of a hole. They're like, they know how long it takes a frog to get that big. So like, damn, that frog, just came back to life.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So remember, if you want to freeze yourself, piss in your own blood veins.
Now, in Mesoamerica, you have Ceneotl, a patron of childbirth and fertility who took the form of a frog or toad with udders.
Oh, God, that's Lovecraftian.
Or Rule 34ian.
Oh, shut up.
Froggy milkers.
Oh, God, go to hell.
Froggy went a-milking.
God, and he did cry.
Now, the Aymara tribe of Peru would use frog images to call rain. The
Again, with the
Aztecs
calling rain. Interesting.
The Aztecs had Tlatecuhtli. That's
Good
the best.
enough.
That's good enough.
Tlatecuhtli?
Tlatecuhtli?
A lot of booty.
Okay.
God damn it, Mike.
Their Earth Mother, who often appeared with toad-like features. Now, quoting from a collection of frog myths from exploratorium.edu, quote, "In one legend, she is the source of the entire universe. Quetzalcoatl, the bird serpent god, and Tezcatlipoca, the magician jaguar god, find her floating alone in the primordial sea. They tear her body in half, forming heaven and the other forming earth.
Rude.
Some common Mesoamerican toads are known to cannibalize their own and other toad species, which may explain the use of the toad as the image of destruction as well as fertility or rebirth."
Interesting.
Now, another subject that I wanted to tackle was that of the Tiddalik, the frog, as part of the Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime creation myth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I opted not to because a subject like the Dreamtime deserves an entire episode on its own.
Oh, and we will do one. I know I took a lot of inspiration for Aaron Apprentice from the Dreamtime. It's fascinating.
An Australian frog fact: there's an Australian frog that doesn't need water, doesn't live near rivers.
Given that it's Australia, I'm gonna say true.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw true on that.
White's tree frog doesn't need to live near water. White's tree frog bucked the trend for amphibians needing to live near water, spending much of their lives up in trees in dry areas like those found in their native Australia. This unique species is able to survive in seemingly inhospitable habitat thanks to a milky white coating found on its skin called caravelin, which essentially helps their skin to lock in moisture for longer. So they self-moisturize, I guess.
Tree frog don't give a fuck.
Well, you know how to tell if a frog's from Australia, right?
It'll try to
It
bite
calls
your
you
face
the,
off.
It calls you the C word.
I was gonna say it goes crikey instead of croak. I'm sorry, that was stupid. All
No,
right.
that's way... Yeah, I'm glad you did that because, mine's worse.
Now, I can quite literally go on and on about all of this with examples, but we'd be here for a couple more hours for sure.
Yeah, but before we do move on, a quick reminder that the Dogon and the Babylonians both had frog gods that allegedly brought them their knowledge of science and nature from the sky. This shit goes way back.
Yeah, every continent on Earth, with the exception of Antarctica so far, I feel like there is, frog creation myth.
Just wait till we find the elder things. They'll have frogs.
Well, for now, how about we take a break?
That's great. My bladder's going to explode.
Just like a frog.
Yep. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. This is Kevin from Supernatural Selection. Are you an independent creator? Do you have a webcomic or an Etsy store? Do you 3D print things? Or are you just looking to get some word out for your Discordian cabal with social terrorism? Well, we'd love to help. And David, I believe you've got some details about how we can help.
Why, certainly. If you go to supernaturalselectionpod.com/contact, that is supernaturalselectionpod.com/contact, you can learn how to advertise with us.
That's right. I believe the rate is $2 per episode. You can't beat that with a stick.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, we've tried.
Yeah, that's cheap. That's literally cheaper than dirt.
Mm-hmm. And best of all, if you're not sure how to write an ad, we'll do it for you. We'll even record it.
Absolutely. Just let us know what you need in the ad, and we'll be happy to do that for you.
And again, that URL is supernaturalselectionpod.com/contact.
And now, back to the show. And we're back. Now, before we get back to our topic here, I've got a frog fact of my own.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that the very first cartoon of Beavis and Butthead was called Frog Baseball?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were playing baseball with a frog.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
frogs, well, how about frogs have no bones and continuously replace their teeth throughout their life?
That's sharks.
Frog, sharks, what's the difference?
Okay, fair. Sure, they've both been around a long time.
So how are we feeling about frogs so far?
I mean, I always kind of liked frogs in general thanks to Kermit, so I guess okay. Mike, how about you?
Frogs have no known natural friends.
God damn it. But how do you feel about that?
Sad. Because
Okay.
everybody should have friends.
Sure.
Especially since they, have, all those complex emotions.
Yeah, right.
Nobody ever said it was easy being green, so...
Yep.
Yeah.
So, while many of our frog associations have been largely, I would say, positive,
Yes.
there are some more negative associations. Now, I put negative in quotes here for a reason.
Right.
We've covered a lot of interesting natural and cultural aspects of frogs, but I want to turn to the magical. Specifically, the association of frogs with witchcraft in a European sense.
Yeah.
Now, again, I used negative in quotes because not all witchcraft is negative. It's a tool, just as a hammer isn't a murder weapon until you actually do the deed.
That's a very good analogy.
So, we should address the toxicity of toads and frogs in some species. That's right, boys, we're talking about toad licking.
Man, Robert Evans' book, A Brief History of Vice, talks about that shit, and it is not recommended.
I really need to read that book.
Oh, you do. It's before he did Behind the Bastards, and it is great.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to quote a write-up from ancientorigins.net. Again, I've referred to them a lot because I kept finding articles from them on frogs. Go figure.
Right.
But I like how that they approach this topic. So, quote, another power attributed to frogs and toads was alchemical in nature. Because some species were purveyors of poisons, their skins were made into powerful drugs which prevented illnesses and healed wounds, induced hallucinations, Jesus Christ,
Very nice.
and killed enemies. In many cases, these myths have some foundation in truth, as many species of frogs and toads do contain poisonous compounds and hallucinogenic alkaloids.
Yes.
Now, frog toxicity is present in over 200 species, mostly clustered in the Central and South America regions.
They are for frogs what Australia is for everything else.
Now, what makes a frog poisonous is the secretion of alkaloid toxins in their skin, a trait shared among all members of the family Dendrobatidae. While not all of them are deadly, many can be, such as the golden poison frog, Philobates terribilis.
That's a hell of a name.
Now, according to WebMD, the specific frog, frog produces batrachotoxin that can kill up to 20,000 mice or 10 humans at once. I don't even know how you measure that. Also, one person is worth the equivalent of a fuckload of mice, based on those numbers.
Mike, is that an accurate conversion rate for mice to humans?
I mean, 200 mice to the person? Wait, no, 2,000 mice to the person.
Like, could you fit 2,000 mice in a dude?
Or was I right the first time? Yeah, 2,000 mice to the person. I guess. You know.
I don't want that in Google search history.
Imagine 2,000 mice in a trench coat emulating a person.
That is a Marvel villain.
Right. Go on a blind date, and then your blind date turns out to be 2,000 mice.
Wasn't there some horror thing that was like just a pile of rats? I don't know. Think of rat.
Willard.
I think. Huh?
Oh, there is the Rat King.
Yeah,
there's the rat
when the rats
king,
get tangled up.
Okay, but what about a frog king?
I might be thinking of just like some specific movie that had a bunch of rats or something.
I don't know.
Willard.
Maybe.
Was there Candyman? Was there a bunch of rats in Candyman?
No,
it was
you're talking about Willard.
Oh yeah, Willard
With Crispin Glover.
There's a remake. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
it
the
had an
remake.
army of rats. Yeah, that's it.
Now, for many species, the effects of their secretion includes reactions such as swelling, muscle paralysis, and nausea. At varying intensities, these secretions have been used differently. It just depends on the species and the application. As for where their secretions derive their toxicity, studies have indicated that a steady diet of ants and certain plants within with those same kind of alkaloids end up processing and being secreted by these frogs.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. You got to reload somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now,
if somehow I found evolutionarily useful, sweating bacon grease, I would do that.
Okay, that's fair. I could see that. It's for sliding.
Oh yeah.
Now, the chemical nature of some frogs has led them to be used to harm, heal, and take people on trips. Mesoamerican tribes would coat arrow tips in toxic frog juice, which is just fun to say, frog juice.
Which there's a reason that one frog is called the poison dart frog.
Mm-hmm. Some painkillers have been developed by using variations on these frog toxins.
Shut up and take your frog pills.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've all heard those stories about people getting high off licking amphibians. Like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer was on the run from PBS and was hiding on that one island in the South Pacific as a missionary. Remember that one?
Kinda. I remember the PBS part because Betty White came after him with a tank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because and then Elmo knows where you live.
Yes.
Which is one of my favorite quotes from The Simpsons.
He pledged a bunch of money and then didn't pay him and then went on the run because Betty White and Elmo were after him.
Damn.
Dad, are you licking toads again? I'm not licking toads.
ABLT. Always be licking toads.
Yeah.
Or toads.
That's our requisite Simpsons reference for the episode.
Hey, all hail the Hypnotoad. There, we got Futurama into.
There we go. Now, you'll notice everything I've talked about here mostly relates to the New World.
Yes.
However, frogs have their alchemical associations in Eurasia as well. Poison in frogs and toads can be found pretty much on every continent, with the exception of Antarctica. Again, unless we're talking about deep toads in the Mountain of Madness.
Yes. Now, this makes the whole thing with alchemy makes sense to me because frogs, by their nature, change form. You know, they go from egg to tadpole to frog. And, of course, you can use them in alchemy, probably butterflies, too, because, I mean, the entire idea of alchemy is changing one thing into another.
Yeah, so you're thinking like a hedge witch.
Absolutely, I'm thinking like a hedge witch.
Kevin, frogs and butterflies are the sorcerer's stone. Or philosopher's stone, that's what
Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, in America, the editors changed it to sorcerer's stone. But nonetheless.
Well, I'm saying in the traditional
philosopher's stone. Man, somebody needs to tell those kids from Full Metal Alchemist. Just get a bunch of fucking frogs.
It's funny that you mentioned stones and frogs, because we'll get into that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, toads?
Toadstones.
Okay, there's two different things.
What about toads that are stoned?
No, this is a different thing.
Okay.
Fucking frogs, man.
I love frogs. It's fucking great.
So, I also want to note here that in some traditions and texts, frogs and toads may be confused for salamanders. I don't expect a 13th century monk to be much of an amphibian expert. They're mostly busy illuminating manuscripts and not trying to die of the pox.
Yeah, but don't forget the wine.
So a herpetologist is a snake person. What's a frogologist?
That's a good question. We're gonna find out.
I don't have that frog fact handy.
Yeah, I don't have that either. So one of us will Google it and just chime in when you have it.
Okay.
All right, so specifically in Europe, we have the natterjack as a source of alchemical frog stuff.
Not alchemical frog butt stuff, hopefully.
Real quick, it is called bactrichology.
Bactrichology.
Rad. All right. So the natterjack, or Bufo calamita, is well documented in European folk medicines and ritual magic. Now, this next bit is pretty fucked up and gruesome. All right. But it represents hedge witchery of the time, and I'm not really joking about this. This is going to get kind of gruesome.
Okay.
Right. So this comes from the MIT Press Reader. Quote, "The toad bone ritual was simple enough. Take a natterjack toad and place it in a copper pot with holes. Then bury it in an ant hill for long enough to allow the ants to strip the toad's flesh clean.
God damn it.
The resulting skeleton is then, after some particulars, tossed into a stream, and whichever bone floats upstream is identified as the toad bone."
All right. Animal cruelty for fun and profit.
Well,
Gotcha.
They didn't say it had to be alive.
We got more here.
Yeah.
Further, a living toad, stressed
go.
out inside a copper pot and attacked by ants in the darkness, will produce a considerable amount of toad venom in an attempt to stave off the ants. So, once removed from the anthill, the copper pot will contain a toad stripped of its flesh, but also a residue of thick, venomous excretions that can be scraped off and used in more practical ways than just bone pointing.
God damn it.
So I'm not going to cover the myriad of beliefs about frog and toad parts and their usage. When they talk about the toadstone, that's almost like, ritual bones, like you throw the bones and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right, the toad bone. Yeah.
There's just so many. It's you use all the parts of the frog. No part gets left alone.
It's like a pig.
Right? But I do want to point out one specific example. The toadstone.
This is from Pokemon, isn't it? It's something you use to evolve a Pokemon. Like Froakie.
No, Froakie evolves at a normal, based on level.
God damn it, don't play semantics with me.
Yeah, hey, I'll talk to you about Pokemon all day, dude. All right, so.
Different show.
Right. Again from ancientorigins.net. Quote, "A widely held superstition in medieval Britain concerned the toadstone, also known as buffonite, that was supposed to be found inside toads' heads.
What the fuck?
Believed to be an antidote to poison, they were set into magical rings and amulets from medieval times until the 18th century. These stones were said to heat up or change color in the presence of poison, thereby protecting the wearer from foul play. The mysterious toadstone was actually a button-sized fossilized tooth of Lepidodes, an extinct genus of ray-finned fish from the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, and all of the associated powers were in the heads of the wearers."
Of course they were.
Mm-hmm. Now, this toadstone was actually mentioned in Act 2 of Shakespeare's As You Like It, with, quote, "Sweet are the uses of adversity which, like the toad, ugly and venomous, wears yet a precious jewel in his head."
Weird.
They're also evoked in Act 4 of Macbeth, at least in name, but I think the reference may be made towards a toxic plant named after a toad. But this is going to let us segue into a brief detour on witchcraft and the role of frogs and toads in witchcraft specifically.
Okay, I was sitting there trying to remember. I was like, didn't the witches say something about it? And I realized that was Eye of Newt.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But see these literary references are mentioning toads, not frogs like found in a Hoboken.
Okay. So you're saying that it's toads that were mentioned first.
Yeah.
And then frogs in Hoboken
Yes.
in modern. Okay, good. Glad we've got everyone use that as a reference in your schoolwork.
Yes. Put it on Wikipedia, please.
Yep, edit the Wikipedia article real quick.
And scientists also estimate that on average you'll accidentally eat 5 frogs while you sleep in your lifetime.
Jesus. Oh, you have killed me with that one, buddy.
Fuck. Okay.
Mike, you need to write an episode.
All right. When we cover witchcraft and the witch trials in Europe and the Americas, I'll have a lot more to say. But this episode is already getting pretty long, so I'm going to be brief here. Again from MIT, quote, German and English texts commonly describe a witch or wizard keeping a toad familiar, a relationship built upon a parasitic practice of bloodletting in exchange for the familiar's obedience.
I've heard of this.
While traditionally it was the witch who gave suck to the familiar, we read in some confessions that the toad would be fed and then milked for a substance that could be used in ointments and other malefic practice.
Man, people need to stop milking frogs. Right?
Especially the ones without udders.
Yeah, and consent matters.
All right, keep quoting here. This cycle, the witch feeding the toad and receiving its rewards, reflects the concept that the foodstuff being fed to the toad was somehow linked to the power that the toad itself had, and then was passed to the witch. So perhaps the practitioner, be they alchemist or cunning craft witch, controlled the diet of the natterjack with specific foods, introducing into its system chemicals that then modified the naturally occurring bufoviridin and bufotenin.
That's a lot of bufo.
So they're using the frogs as just like nature's breeder reactors.
They're using the frog as an alchemist stone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they making them gay?
I mean, it's feed it the right stuff, I guess.
Okay.
Just a couple cosmos.
So is this like when, supposedly, you eat asparagus and makes your pee smell bad?
It makes other stuff smell bad too, but kinda.
Or,
Yeah,
you drink
kinda.
a lot of pineapple juice and it makes other things taste sweet.
Yes.
Another thing that I forgot to mention is that, like, the toadstone thing. The other idea is that the stone might actually have been calcified secretions on the corpse of a frog.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's another one I forgot to mention. But yeah, that's another possible explanation there.
Let's go look for toadstones.
Just don't do the thing where you bury them in an anthill.
Oh God, no, Jesus, that's terrible. If you do that to a frog, you should have that done to you.
Now, of course, when talking about some of the more sinister associations with frogs and toads, we should mention plagues.
Oh yeah, let's get biblical in this bitch.
So, in Exodus 8, we have the iconic moment where Moses summons frogs and then God mass murders them all. Quote, Then the Lord said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh and say to him, This is what the Lord says. Let my people go so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will plague your whole country with frogs. The Nile will teem with frogs. They will come up into your palace and your bedroom and onto your bed, into the houses of your officials and on your people, and into your ovens and kneading troughs. The frogs will go up on you and your people and all your officials.
Damn.
So then we have a moment where Aaron and several magicians, it's interesting, like magicians mentioned in the Bible.
There's magicians in the Old Testament, yes.
Yeah.
And necromancers.
So Aaron and several magicians summon a teeming mass of frogs from the waters of the Nile that proceed to swarm over Egypt. Then here's the fucked up part. Quote, After Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh, Moses cried out to the Lord about the frogs he had brought on Pharaoh. And the Lord did what Moses asked. The frogs died in the houses, in the courtyards, and in the fields. They were piled into heaps, and the land reeked of them.
Did they at least eat something off of them? Like the legs?
Yeah,
So,
like I hope they would like at least eat them.
so I guess Pope Pius didn't read about this part, I guess.
He missed this part. He was reading the abridged version of the Bible.
Well, he skipped the first episode, which is the Old Testament, and he jumped to the second episode, because that's when it gets really good.
Yeah, he had the version that removed the Jews.
So he like started on season 2, and he always meant to go back to season 1.
Well,
but he heard it was kind of a slog. So.
Well, it didn't get good until season 2.
Yeah.
But this does re-emphasize my idea that Old Testament God was a bastard.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, very vengeful, very jealous.
Pharaoh, you're all your shit's gonna stink of frogs.
I'm gonna frog the shit out of you.
Frogging, that's a new torture.
Yes.
Oh man. So I do apologize for all the dead frogs so far.
You didn't do it.
Well, there's also a moment in Revelation 16:13 that is pretty metal. Quote. Okay. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet.
Okay, the whole of Revelation just reads like a Slayer song or album.
It's literally my favorite book of the Bible.
Oh, obviously.
I love Revelation, yeah. So, to me, all of this also reminds me of stories of frogs raining from the sky. Which is a rare meteorological phenomenon when a population of little hoppy boys gets pulled up into a storm and rained down miles away to the confusion of people. A famous example of this was in Calgary in 1921. We've heard of that phenomenon, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's fish.
Yes.
Now, my source on that Calgary incident also has another brutal end for those frogs.
God damn it.
Quote, apparently the neighborhood cats, which would have likely roamed freely back in 1921, feasted on the frogs.
You know, my dad got caught in a fish rain, but not frogs. It's kind of close.
Have you mentioned that before on the show?
I don't know if I have. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. We've been going for 3 years. It's hard to remember.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but my dad got caught in a fish rain and ran in, and my grandma was like, why'd you run in? And he was like, it's raining fish. And she was like, no, it's not. Looked out. Oh, shit.
Did you at least, did they at least keep the fish or some of the fish to eat?
I think they were terrified of the fact that fish were falling from the sky, so no.
Never overlook fish rain as a source of free food.
I think the basic rule, though, normally is don't eat the sky fish.
I think they're always like small fish too. Like
they're usually like minnows
size.
and shit.
And maybe sardine size.
I mean, thank God it wasn't tuna.
Yeah. Oh God, that's worse than hail. That's just like
What happened to your Volkswagen? A tuna fell on it.
A school was leveled today when tuna rained from the sky.
Yeah, because tuna can get like 1,000 pounds. It's like dropping cows from the sky.
Yeah, no.
Sky cows.
Sky cows. It's like Earthworm Jim.
Yeah. Some species of frogs can spend weeks or months underwater, never coming up for air.
True.
Yeah, I'm going to say true on that one.
Yeah, some frogs are able to breathe through their skin, which allows them to spend much of their lives beneath the surface.
Yeah, where it's kind of like gills.
Hell yeah.
Frogs are fucking awesome.
Don't some frogs also breathe through their butt?
Yes. And I'm glad you finally got around to butt stuff with
That's
the frogs.
what made me think of it.
Okay.
Butt stuff with frogs is a felony in a couple of states.
It's also another good band, though.
Butt stuff with frogs?
Yes. They're modern punk.
Yes.
Oh, boy. All right. So, we've talked about, like, a lot of like magic and symbology of frogs, but let's get into some like cryptid stuff. How about that?
Yeah.
So frog hybrids aren't exactly rare in the world of cryptozoology. The anatomical association between humans and frogs is very strong. Right. So a fusion of humans and frogs is relatively easy to associate within the fertile human mind. Again, after all, many of us dissected frogs in school to better understand our own anatomy. Yeah. However, none of these like frog hybrids quite hit that frog cryptid sweet spot like the Loveland frog.
That is very true. And before we go on with that, I just want to say I dissected a frog with the metal heads, so like they crucified it and like did a ritual with it and shit.
Fuck.
So our teacher was highly disturbed. But anyway, it is high time we talked about Enrique. Enrique, our mascot from the logo, is the Loveland frog. I named him Enrique because I name everything Enrique. But he's been our mascot since the get-go, and we've never really talked about the Loveland frogs. So, buckle up. The year was, I always say that, the year was 1955, and a traveling salesman was driving out of the Branch Hill neighborhood in Loveland, Ohio. And it's always a traveling salesman. Whatever happened to those guys?
Well, I heard that they died out. There was a play about it.
Oh, right.
I think it's Sears' fault.
You know, probably. And JCPenney. Anyway, so the unnamed man saw three forms standing by the side of the road that night. They were about 3.5 to 4 feet tall and standing on their hind legs. He could see they were lumpy with the faces of frogs and had rough skin covered with a hint of mucus. Kind of like me and Mike right now. The guy was already shocked by seeing this in his headlights when one of the three frogmen pulled a wand out of somewhere and started waving it over his head.
Frog wizards from another realm.
And how does he know they're frog men? I mean, unless he saw them hanging dong, which I'm pretty sure frogs don't have dong anyway.
They didn't have tits.
Well, frogs don't have dongs or tits. So.
Anthropomorphic ones probably would. Anyway.
Only if you're drawing rule 34.
Yeah. So sparks began shooting out of the wand in all directions, and our unnamed protagonist did the most sensible thing in the world. Motherfucker gunned it the hell out of there and started telling people.
I don't think I'd tell anybody if I saw 3.5 foot tall wand wielding frogs.
A frog did some wizard shit at me.
Yeah, no. People would lock me up.
Well, and then also, you know, associations with goblins here, like those of the Hopkinsville incident, and mentioned in Hellier, there have been wands associated with them, and they're about the same height.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing a parallel there.
Yeah, no, and it's a good parallel.
And the Hopkinsville goblins jumped high. Maybe they were frogs in spacesuits.
Or maybe they were frogs with fake ears on their heads.
No, that's their, like, exosuits.
Ooh, interesting. Now, there were questions about the authenticity of this story
and the soberness of the driver.
Well, we didn't have a name to put with the story, but in 1972, there was another sighting. Bear in mind, 55 to 72. Not a lot. So, Officer Ray Shockey was driving out near the old boot factory by the Little Miami. Yes, Miami, spelled Miami, but pronounced Miami. The Little Miami River, when he saw the same creature standing by a guardrail in his headlights, and it seemed to have its hands up on the guardrail like it was going to leap over it.
Now, imagine watching a real frog need to brace themselves with a little stick to make a jump. It's very delightful.
My back.
Yeah, no, it's a frog. It shouldn't need to, like, hold on to anything for jumping.
Right. No, I agree.
It's an old frog. It's an old frog. It's an old frog.
Oh, it's Grandpa Frog. Mm-hmm. So, Shockey reported it, and it hit the news. Now, the next part of this story didn't come out until 2016 because of another sighting of the Frog Man. Because the news never does follow-ups, and I don't think either of these guys reported it. About 2 weeks after Shockey's sighting, another officer named Mark Matthews saw what sounded like the same creature in the same area out near the boot factory. 3 feet or so tall and frog-like. But Matthews did the American thing. He pulled over, got out his rifle, and shot the thing dead on sight. So Matthews then loaded it in the trunk and took it back to the station to show Shockey. Presumably to brag and be like, I shot your fucking monster like a real man.
Never underestimate the American propensity to open fire in any given situation.
Yeah.
What's the thing? There's a stupid saying that
Shoot first, ask questions later.
yeah, or no, it's it concludes with and let God sort it out.
Oh yeah, kill them all, let God
Yeah.
sort them out. Yeah.
There you go.
So back at the station, when they popped the trunk, they discovered Matthews had shot and killed a very large iguana with its tail missing. So I thought this sounded like bullshit when I read it at first, but after doing the research, it turns out that Cuban and Mexican iguanas can grow up to 7 feet long with their tail, and without the tail, they can be around 3 to 4 feet long, so fuck me, it was an iguana that time, just with its front legs up on the guardrail.
This is just trying to
Iguana
crawl
wizards from another realm.
God damn it, David. What was that, Mike?
It was just trying to climb over the guardrail.
Yeah.
I wonder how it lost the tail.
You know, that's the question.
Ran over, I guess.
We're still left with that first sighting of the 3 frogmen in 55. And we're still left with the 2016 sighting that prompted the revelation about the 72 sightings. We're also left with a much more disturbing question of what maniac might have been out there for the past 70 years cutting the tails off iguanas and chucking them out by the old boot factory.
Well, he was making boots with their tails, obviously.
I guess some weird former employee out there laughing like a maniac. Anyway, it's a mystery any way you slice it, so...
A Cuban iguana can live 60 to 70 years.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Serious? I didn't read that. Wow, okay.
So
Maybe there's 3 of them, but still, who cut the tails?
Or it could have been, yeah. I don't know.
Some lizards will drop their tails to escape predators.
I've only heard that with smaller lizards.
Yeah,
so
I've never seen like a big lizard do that.
Well, I'm just saying that there's lizards that do that. You know what I mean?
Sure,
So who
yeah.
knows? Maybe I don't know about Cuban iguanas, but
Okay, yeah, now I want to see Godzilla drop his tail in a movie when another
dude,
monster
that
shows
would be
up.
dope as hell.
That would be fucking
people
hilarious.
just freaking out.
Plop, and just everybody dies.
Right. So obviously there's not a whole lot here to do a whole episode on the Loveland frog,
Right.
but I really do love it as a cryptid. You know, a big walking frog that is just the kind of weirdness that I want to believe in.
I mean, who doesn't? It's probably the most whimsical cryptid we've covered.
So if we're getting back to frogs, how about another frog fact?
Oh!
If you look a frog in the eyes, it will assume you have challenged it to a freestyle rap battle.
True.
And you will lose.
I know it's false, but I want to believe it.
Yeah, that's false. I
Yeah.
made that one up.
I'm shocked, Mike.
Well, we talked about frog cryptids. We've talked about frogs and their relationship to humanity.
Right.
So let's talk about human-frog hybrids, shall we?
Like boning a frog.
Is this a thing?
We're going to get into it.
Oh, great.
So for this next section, I primarily use macroevolution.net, a website by Eugene M. McCarthy, PhD, that proposes that human origins come from interspecies hybridity.
Oh, no.
Monkey frog fucking.
Yep.
This is an entirely separate topic that deserves some attention just so that we could talk about dog-cow hybrids,
God,
of which the website has an entire section about it.
This is going to be as bad as the Electric Universe, isn't it?
Well, if you listen to our 2-part series on Alex Chu and his myriad references on our Week in Weird episodes, I can tell you that this is the exact vibe the website macroevolution.net gives, and I love it. I can't wait to upset Mike with a deep dive into it.
Oh.
This is going to be Time Cube Redux.
I will prepare my anus.
Oh, boy.
All right, so much like the frog, you can breathe out of it.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Only
now-
out though. I can't breathe in.
God damn it.
So we're going to go through some of the evidence of frog-human hybrids on the website that the good doctor has gathered.
Oh, good.
Now, many of these are horribly, hilariously fucked up newspaper reports.
From the 1800s, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one reported frog-human hybrid comes from an 1888 edition of Colorado Salita's Hale. Hale being the name of the journal or newspaper.
Okay.
And Kevin, I want you to go ahead and give us a good 1888 voice to read this.
All right, I'm going to do the best I can. A strange monstrosity. A horrible child was born to a respectable married lady of Goshen, Indiana, Saturday night. The production was quite small and bore the toes webbed, while the arms assumed unnatural positions and the fingers were also webbed. There was no strong resemblance to a frog. The feet were flat, and neck and head were drawn back. The face was more like a frog's than human. There was no spine, and the offspring appeared to rest more naturally when placed upon hands and feet. So, I'm not going to lie, this kind of sounds more like a thalidomide baby.
Yeah, it's just some, fucked up, unfortunate,
Yeah, like the kids in the hall, this is a flipper baby.
Yeah.
Just a horrible child was born.
A horrible child was born. Fuck this thing. Fuck it. Oh,
The
God.
midwife fainted.
Everyone there threw up.
All right. Next, we have from the Carbondale, Kansas Independent, circa 1883. Now this one's pretty fucked. And
And
this
the last one
long.
wasn't?
Yeah, no, this one's even more fucked, and it's a long one because I'm doing the entirety of the article here, but I'm also
Okay.
going to break in here and there.
I really feel like I should. This is the wrong time to have quit drinking. The Frog Child, a curious freak of nature. One of the most extraordinary monstrosities ever seen. A reporter of the Republican visited the Frog Child, Matthew Perry.
Oh,
Who is now
too
on
soon.
I know. Who is now on exhibition on O Street near 7th Street Northwest yesterday afternoon, and behold, one of the most extraordinary monstrosities on record. This child is said to be 13 years of age, weighs 19 pounds, and is 18 inches in height. Most monstrosities present an unsightly appearance, but in this case, the child is so bright and lively, being naturally smart, that the general feeling of disgust is not felt. The forearms and hands, as well as the feet and legs below the knees, are exactly like those of a frog.
Now, I'm sorry, this is just incredibly fucked up.
It is.
So
This
one
horror child is pretty smart.
Yeah. So one thing,
Boy, what a smart thing for a monstrosity.
I'm also getting that punctuation is really changed.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to follow that. I'm going, is the child Matthew Perry? Oh no, that's the reporter.
I thought the child was
No,
Matthew
Matthew
Perry.
Perry's the reporter.
Okay, I just feel like we bought more periods at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah, no, it's like the worst run-on sentence. I think they just didn't have the money for periods back then.
Well, it was typesetting. They
had
only
a lot
had
of
like
commas.
3.
They had a lot of commas, but no periods.
Yep.
Now, the next part reads like something out of The Shadow over Innsmouth.
Also, I really do feel bad that we mentioned Matthew Perry.
I don't know. I think he would probably like that we're still remembering him.
Yeah, actually, God, that would have been funny. Hey, Matthew, or like his character from Friends, were you a frog boy? Anyway, so the face and head are slightly deformed, one eye being larger than the... God, it's Yip from Coda's World.
I was thinking Quasimodo.
Yeah,
but
that too. One eye being larger than the other, while the mouth is that of a frog. When the child opens its mouth, it has the appearance of a frog's mouth. The palate is just beginning to form. The ears are small, round, and ill-shapen, and the child hops as near like a frog as possible. The feet are cold and clammy as a frog's, while the remainder of the body emits the same heat as other human beings. The child is observant and quick to understand and see all that is passing about him. A doll was placed at the further end of the table upon which he was sitting, and he would then hop for it just like a frog. He seemed to enjoy throwing away everything given him. Everything amuses him, and his antics are comical to a laughable degree. A lady present took his hat, saying, "I'm going to take your hat away if you don't stand on your head." The child gave her a quizzical look and then put his thumb upon his nose and expanded his fingers, forming the significant and well-known sign, "You can't come it."
What?
I don't know.
Like, this is child abuse.
Yes.
Like,
Oh my
it's,
God.
it's so fucked up. We as a species.
This is
Jesus
like
Christ.
bullies in school. I'm gonna steal your hat, shithead.
He has a
Frog boy hop.
he has a
Little
long
son of a bitch.
long career of 3 bits of gander ahead of him.
Oh yeah, no. I think we're getting into that, aren't we?
Right. So there wasn't a lot going on in 1883, so taunting a child pretty much was your only source of entertainment.
Man, thank God for television and Stooky Bill and all that.
We also had like so little going on. Like you were already pretty shittily off, so seeing someone less fortunate than you, I guess, is kind of a pick me up.
Also, you couldn't drink the water, so you were just like
Drunk.
blitzed on whiskey all the time, and then you see a freak baby, you're like,
beer.
I'm a mess with that thing.
Yeah, you know you're gonna have a nice year when a frog boy is born.
Oh yeah, no, you've
We got
like
something to do finally.
you've got at least 3 years if you're lucky.
Oh man.
All right, so back to this asshole. The cause of this very peculiar malformation, as stated by the father, is that the mother, shortly before giving birth to the child, was digging in the garden and dug up a toad, which fell upon its back and commenced kicking in its effort to right itself. The child, when on its back, makes motion similar to the frog, when in a like position. The father has 4 children besides this, but they're all right physically and mentally. Showmen have made him offers, but they are not large enough to induce him to exhibit his child. Many people were present to see this odd piece of humanity.
You're sounding a little bitter by the end there, Kevin.
I'm a little pissed.
Yeah.
I'm
rightfully
sorry, but
so.
we had to do the whole article. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's kind of important.
So-
So, yeah, go ahead.
I just need to say that there was this prevailing theory for a long time that, like, if a woman was, say, frightened by a horse or an elephant, the baby would come out looking like whatever scared her, which was the initial, like, you know, the Elephant Man, Joseph Merrick?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The theory was that his mother had been frightened by an elephant at the circus.
Oh God.
So
Jesus.
that's why this made sense to me, because I knew about this theory from back then.
This whole thing has been very wild so far, but you know,
I know.
So the moral of the story is for like pregnant women to avoid drinking, smoking, and being in the presence of toads.
Apparently, yeah.
I also like the note about the dad holding out for a better deal to display his frog child publicly, like he was already doing in the first place in this
Motherfucker should
situation.
have set up a box with, like, a sign.
I
But he's already exhibiting this poor frog child.
You
Well,
ain't
you know-
gave me enough money to show off my freak baby.
like they say, everybody has their price. He's just, he's like, the people that are holding on to their homes,
Yeah.
they're trying to build a, mall or some shit. He knows he's going to sell eventually. He just wants to he doesn't want to get fucked, right?
This is like holding on to your real estate until McDonald's comes a calling.
Yeah.
He's waiting for that P.T. Barnum money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what he really wanted.
Suck a bone every minute.
He didn't want none of that, what was the other competing circus at the time?
Ringling Brothers.
Yeah, he didn't want that Ringling Brothers money. No, he wanted P.T. Barnum money.
Yeah. Well, Barnum knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So
He treated
the
them
thing
freaks
about
right.
these examples and others pulled together by Eugene M. McCarthy, PhD, I'm going to stress the PhD here.
Doctor of what?
Mathematics.
He actually has like a legitimate degree in like genetics or something like that.
Oh, God.
Sure. Oh, God. Wow.
Yeah.
You would
This is
think
like
you
a
would know better.
geologist flat earther.
So the thing about these articles he's pulling together is that he's attributing what appear to be birth defects and deformities to an example of frog-human hybridity.
Obviously.
So,
How did I don't think he actually passed his genetics tests. I mean, maybe he cheated or something. If he thinks that's a viable option.
I don't know, because I did a little research on the guy, because I obviously had to vet this stuff before I put it in.
Yeah.
But he, like from what I've gathered, yes, he does have a degree.
How the fuck? I mean, I guess it doesn't preclude. So during COVID, there were plenty of nurses that came in and just didn't believe in
COVID. Yeah.
in COVID and all the stuff that that entailed. But I guess having a medical degree doesn't mean you're a smart person.
Yeah, just because you can pass a test doesn't mean you believe what you're passing.
Yeah, like he has a Wikipedia page.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so like we're going to get into him in the future because I think there's some interesting stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
So one of his examples that he's pulling here is Hop the Frog Boy, who was a well-known circus freak. Now,
Right.
I'm using the term freak here because that is the lingo of the industry and is used historically. Anyone of that community, first of all, hell yeah, you rock. But I'd love to know more about like what sort of terminology is preferred. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, wasn't that like, especially back in the day, that was like they took pride in that distinction.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Because they were paid, especially like we were saying from Barnum and stuff.
Yeah, no.
Some places paid
there's
them
nothing
very
shameful
well.
about being a circus freak.
Yeah. Like I have it on third-hand authority because I watched a thing where they were interviewing a person who, circus freak, and they're like, no, call us freaks. That's us.
Yeah.
So again, like I don't know. I don't want to offend anyone.
We'd love to hear from you.
If you do feel differently and are in fact a circus person,
Performer, sideshow person,
not a offended on somebody's account person.
Yeah.
But that being said, please email us, team@supernaturalselectionpod.com to let us know. I'd love to hear. But yeah, you can always look up Hop the Frog Boy. I'm not going to dwell on it because, again, we're like, the episode's getting long. We're getting to the end here. So, but yeah, we're going to get into Eugene's theories another time. I just wanted to bring all this up as they relate to our discussion on frog weirdness. Because again, we've talked about frogs in multiple ways that all seem to connect to different topics we've broached here on the show.
Right.
So, the thing is, we're just scratching the surface of frogs and toads as subjects of the weird, occult, and supernatural. However, whenever I found one exciting topic related to frogs, I'd find another 5.
Goddamn.
Yeah, so ultimately my goal here was to survey frogs and their associations with themes that make up our show.
Yeah.
With that said, I do plan on revisiting this topic as I have a wonderfully insane story involving frogs and mass hysteria.
Oh, please tell me they were dancing.
No, but it does involve more dead frogs and visions of the apocalypse.
You have a body count, sir.
Right? No, this is probably the most animals that have ever died in an episode. But yeah, hey, we did it. We covered frogs and not nearly to the depth we could have. Still, I'm pretty hoppy with the results. Save that one for the end. So what'd you guys think?
First off, fuck you for that pun. But good job on the episode. The only thing we didn't cover is frogs and toads found living inside rocks. But what I think we can do is get together and cover that in a Supernatural Sources on the Patreon. So, if you want to hear that.
Or you can save it for the next frog episode.
Sure.
Yeah. So, like, we have plenty of options, and there's so many different cultures that we could have covered with examples of, like, how frogs are linked in, but it's just like, dashing through a museum and just, like, looking at paintings as you're running by.
You got 5 minutes until the museum closes, and you got to see everything. Mm-hmm. So, Mike, what do you think?
Frogs use their eyeballs to help them eat.
That is 100% true.
When a frog swallows food, it pulls its eyes down into the roof of its mouth to help push food down their throats.
Yep, I've seen it. It is disgusting. Frogs are still cool, but goddamn. They really are like little aliens.
Yeah, like, I always have liked frogs, but being able to, like, sit down here and, like, look at all this stuff and put this together, it's like, no, I get it. I get why they're so important to humans.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was just typing in our Discord, y'all, frogs rule.
Well, that should be a t-shirt.
Yeah. You're right. That should be. No, this was really fascinating, and I learned stuff I didn't know about frogs, or we reinforced stuff I did know about frogs. I learned frogs weren't a thing until Hoboken.
Yeah.
There's just a lot we've learned about frogs, and I appreciate this episode. We had fun.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, if you would like to learn more about the show, you can find us at supernatpod.rocks. That is supernatpod. Pot? Wow.
That's our weed gummy brand.
Yeah, sorry. That's
Stoned.
Dank. Anyway, supernatpod.rocks. You can find us on social media on Mastodon at supernatpod at weirdo.network, and I believe we have a Blue Sky. If we don't, it is on the way. And we also appreciate everyone listening. We want to thank everyone out there that's been listening for the past 3 years. Your continued support is appreciated. And, don't forget to leave a review, spread the word about the show. It's all good fun. We're just trying to have a good time and not get dumb.
Yeah, sorry we had such a hiatus for the holidays, but things got cray-cray.
Oh, yeah, man. Christmas, New Year's, work, and
personal life. And
getting sick and all that fun stuff. So, yeah. Again, thanks for listening. So, until next time, stay safe and stay frosty. Goodbye.
Frog fact. No one knows you're a frog on the internet.
Frog fact. Frogs killed Kennedy.
Hey guys, did you know that in terms of male human and female amphibian breeding, frogs are the most compatible amphibians for humans? Not only are they in the field egg group, but most
No! God damn it.
Don't turn around, there's a frog behind you right now.